Hey everyone, and welcome to this special episode where we're going to talk about HYROX Melbourne as it just passed here in Melbourne, Australia. What a weekend it was. Now, in this podcast episode and YouTube video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be recapping some of the highlights that we took away, the HYROX Heroes crew, now known as Hybrid Heroes as well, exciting announcement, and just talk about the highlights, what we learned from the weekend, and to share those insights with you. So if you have a HYROX coming up anytime soon, or maybe you've done HYROX Melbourne as well, that you can take our lessons, maybe you had the same teachings as well, and this is what you can now use to move forward with and prepare yourself for your next HYROX. Guys, it was an incredible weekend. I'm excited to just talk about some of the things that happened on the weekend. There's so much to debrief, so we're not going to cover everything in this episode, but we will definitely be pulling this apart over the weeks to come and bringing on some special guests to share their insights as well. So guys, let's crack into it. HYROX Melbourne 2.0. So what a weekend. So first of all, it was a Christmas edition. So it came, HYROX brought it back to Melbourne, and I think they needed to. So if you did go to the HYROX Melbourne event earlier in the year, at the end of June, it was an amazing event. Huge crowd, huge numbers, but definitely HYROX were a little bit underprepared for it. I believe they had some issues getting in to set up, so they were a bit short on time. But you could really just sort of see that it was really the first time that they executed the Australian team on this kind of level. And it's still a great event, but what happened this time and what we saw at other events, so Sydney, we saw the team be much more organized, the event run a lot better, and just more preparation. That carried over into Brisbane, into Perth, and coming back to Melbourne, they took things to another level. So big shout out to HYROX Australia and the team here and the crew here and make it all happen. You did not disappoint, and it was an incredible event and like a real standard, I believe, for the world as well. We had just over 9,000 athletes compete over the weekend. This is a December event. This is like people are 1 week away from Christmas holidays, from switching off, and nearly 9,000 people traveled to Melbourne. The amount of people who traveled down to Melbourne to do this amazing race was incredible. So just where a lot of people are switching off and Christmas parties and getting drunk and all those things, it just really shows the direction of health and fitness in Australia, but I think globally as well. I think there's a big shift of people just wanting to feel better about themselves and do more health related activities. I know earlier in the year, some of the conversations were, I wonder if it's going to be as big, and it absolutely blew it away. So yeah, like almost like, I think it's like another 2,000 plus people at this event. And it was just incredible. So what were some of the key takeaways that we took away? So the crew here in Melbourne, the people that we trained from our experiences. And one of the biggest things straight away is that the event, like you get excited for the event. There's a lot of training that goes into it. And obviously this creates a lot of nerves, a lot of excitement. And, sometimes you get a bit, you forget how exciting the event is. And it was just such a fun event. Like, it's an amazing community, amazing people, everyone there, like from the HYROX team to the athletes to the people to all the supporters. It's just the right environment for just people to really just celebrate people doing amazing things. So it made me more excited about doing HYROX and being in this space. So that was one big takeaway. So if you're sort of on the fence or you haven't done a HYROX yet, and you feel like there's already excitement in your gym or your community, you haven't been to the race itself, it's something that once you're there, you're going to get bitten by the bug and you're just going to want to keep being surrounded by, just that vibe, that energy. So it's incredible. Amazing community, as I said, and it's only getting bigger and better. That's another big takeaway. HYROX is not slowing down. Like, it's not going to slow down for a very long time, which is really exciting. Because the sport, like we're only just starting to get better at the sport. And when I say we, like really just people in this space. We could really see that with the running. Like people are just getting so much faster at running, and they're getting so much stronger. Like this hybrid space and this HYROX event, people now are just really starting to get more experienced. And I believe we're not even close to people sort of really setting the bar and the standard for what's to come in this space. So that was one of my biggest points here is, a big takeaway for us is we put more focus into the running. Like we know it's a running event, it's a running biased event, we should say, and how important that is. And my last event with Gabby, now mixed doubles, was in Brisbane. So we had a good 3 months to get ready for this. And that was a big takeaway is I put more time and energy into running. So it didn't mean I killed myself more on every session, but I was just smarter. I did an extra run session, did some tempo running, did my zone 2 run. We had a track sesh, and that increase in running and volume and consistency with the specifics of running really paid off over the weekend. And for everyone else that was involved, we added a little bit more running into our HYROX style sessions. So running isn't necessarily about, I think, needing to kill yourself and push yourself, like I said, via intensity, but you just need to get more comfortable with running in general, which is going to then yield better performance anyway. So I think that is one thing, because running, it's a skill. It's not just fitness ability, right? So that's one thing we forget sometimes when learning to get better at anything, is it sometimes comes down to the skill of it, the mechanical application, and that will just come with doing more of it and simply just getting better. So that was a big thing that we saw, which was a huge takeaway. So if you're someone who's like, I need to get better at running, I need to do more running, the great news is you don't need, again, does not equal intensity, but just doing more of it, at whatever level that is for you, just more long, slow runs, right? Just getting more comfortable is going to help you heaps, whether that's adding like a bit of a faster style session once a week as well. Any improvement there, just a little one that you need, is going to, again, play big dividends when it comes to the sport of HYROX. Okay, another big takeaway, right? And it's like I can confirm this now. I believe it, and I would love to know your thoughts or feedback too, if you have the same thoughts or if you think differently. But I believe the first half of HYROX is harder. Like it is way harder. So it's mentally harder. I think it's more demanding on the body. So the first half, we got the ski erg, we got the sled push, the sled pull, and the burpees. Now, for me, I believe the first half is just more demanding on the threshold system. So your lactate threshold system, you're going in and out of anaerobic, aerobic zone much greater than the rest of the race. So what does that mean? Basically, whenever you're sprinting or putting out massive amounts of power and energy, you're using energy system anaerobic, so without oxygen. So when you go into that zone, then you go in oxygen debt. Basically, you need to then recover more versus being purely aerobic, where oxygen is supplying the effort required. Because that sled is hard and you're pushing it fast and it's heavy, again, it just uses a lot of energy, which puts a huge demand on, again, your lungs, your lactate system, your ability just to, catch your breath, essentially. So even a ski erg, like as much as, the advice, and it's so true, don't go out too hard, be easy at the start. Really, like that is absolutely essential advice. But what we are finding when you want to be competitive, right? So if you are someone who is looking to be competitive, then, what does that mean? Go easy, take it easy. It's like, well, if someone's going quicker than you, a lot quicker than you, and can hold that pace, then you have to match it as well. So that's just shows how fit you got to get, is like that these starting paces and times got to be quite quick to still not be anywhere near your max. So you're always going to come out the gate, using the energy you have, right? You're not going to be holding back too much. So getting through the stations, and then the burpees, I'm quite good at burpees, but they're hard. They're still hard. So if you're someone who is not good at burpees, like they are hard. It's hard even if you're good at them. It's just a hard movement. It's a lot of, explosive energy, and it just takes the air out of you. And, that we're trying to run fast. Again, the first half is really hard. I find when you get into the back half, so, we're talking rower, we're talking farmers carries, lunges, And then wall balls, like there's a high level of aerobicness needed. Nothing is ridiculously explosive, or you're not having to produce huge amounts of power like you are on the sled. So I really feel like that aerobic system and your ability to just keep moving, it's a much nicer back end. And I sort of feel like as you start to fatigue anyway, you can't necessarily put out the ridiculous amounts of high energy that would rob you a lot of oxygen at the start of a race. So you sort of settle into a really nice pace on the back end, even though you can still be moving harder on that limit. But yeah, it's like just confirming that the first half is really hard. So what are we taking from that? Big lessons here is we're learning that not only in training do we have to learn how to pace and go to distance, whether that's an hour, whether it's an hour and a half, whether it's longer, and really look at it from an endurance point of view, but we still can't neglect our shorter, faster efforts in training, our short workouts where we're learning to really move fast with intensity and do that for a period of time, because that's kind of what we're experiencing in the first half of the race. So it's like almost having that ability to be able to keep up with a slightly faster pace and not allow it to completely destroy or affect your back end. So and that's where we look at it. If you look at the pyramid of fitness, let's just talk from a cardiovascular point of view. You've got your aerobic, your long endurance, but then on the other side, you got your anaerobic system still, which is like your sprint work, right? So you kind of still need to work on both ends of the system, because your endurance, right, is going to be your capacity. But then when you want to go faster and build that lactate system, you have to go from, literally you have to be able to sprint for 10 seconds before you can sprint for 20 seconds. You have to be able to sprint for 20 seconds before you can sprint for 40 seconds. Obviously that pace gets slightly slower, just like running. You got to be able to jog slow, for 60 minutes, right, before you can go faster at 40 minutes, kind of example, right? So they're two things that we're really going to take and move forward with to improve front end speed, back end speed, and pacing. Okay. Another huge takeaway, and this was a huge win. So we had Nick and Gab, right, compete in their first women's pro doubles event. It was something that they just signed up for super last minute. They have come together via our crew here. They met each other like literally 4 weeks ago. They've done, I think, 2 runs together. Me and Gab do our Wednesday morning run. Nick's been tagging along and getting involved with those runs. That's as far as they have gone training together. And then they signed up last second and were like, let's do women's pro doubles. It's an elite 15 qualifier. These girls are extremely strong. They can run really fast. And they won the event, which is incredible. So again, a big lesson here. And we're going to have them on the show really soon, which is going to be exciting as well. But a big lesson that we learned here is looking at these 2 girls. They can run incredibly fast, huge tank. They're very capable at running, but they're very, very strong individual athletes. And myself, from a coaching point of view, and seeing these 2 girls, and this hybrid space is really going to change soon, especially in HYROX, because it's been proven, and there's people who are winning HYROX right now, world champions, all the rest, but they're killing it because they're great runners. They're fast runners. They're fantastic, and they're still functionally strong, but they don't have strength backgrounds. And now what we're finding in this space is, again, running's half of the event, strength's half of the event. And these girls, like, I'm going to say it, girls, if you're listening, like, they made errors, and so they should. They don't have the experience together. They haven't trained much together, which goes to a point. If you're doing doubles, it's about synchronizing, actually getting quality time together is going to be really key. These girls made a ton of errors. They made a ton of errors. And they even made those errors on the strength stuff where their strengths are the strength, and they still won the event. They just won by a margin. I think they were about 52 seconds up on second place coming into the wall balls, and like they just struggled to get depth a few times. The judges were very strict, as they should be, and failed to hit the target right in the center of the X, and it just cost them so much. They did an extra 30 to 40 reps. that was just one example of some of the errors they made, but it just goes to show that moving forward, that strength training cannot be overlooked. And with girls like Nick and Gab coming into the space and not only running fast and showing that they have great running speed, but unmatched when it comes to the strength, this is now going to absolutely change the focus when it comes to hybrid, because these runners, the ones that are just dominating this sport at the moment, who again, they're great runners, they have strength, but unless they really start to focus and get really strong, we're gonna start to see just a new breed, especially in the women's category, come through, and Nick and Gab are going to be the absolute benchmark and pinnacle of that. So it's going to be really interesting. So what does this mean for us normal individuals, right? And I've said, and this is why, in our coaching, our programs, we provide strength training is still such a must, because we can't just confuse HYROX with thinking we just got to be run, nor is it just get really strong, right? But you got to equally work on each things. And that's why everyone is so different. Some people have a very good strength base. Some people have a very good running base. So you got to understand what you have. You got to understand what you don't have, and you got to work on those things that you don't. You got to improve that. Again, this hybrid space and HYROX is really about rewarding the person who is most balanced, right? And as we do say, HYROX itself is a running and biased event, right? So there's no doubt you've got to be a great runner. And if you're a great runner, you're going to have a huge advantage. But again, we're going to start to see that advantage, as people get better at running, these stronger athletes. Because again, just another misconception is people think that if you're strong, got a bit of muscle on you and a bit of size, that you can't be a fantastic or a really fast runner. Well, the reality is it's only 8 kilometers rock zone. Let's talk 8.7, I think technically. Like, it's not a ridiculous amount of distance for we're not talking a half marathon, we're not talking marathon, so we're not talking about your typical really skinny, lean, light runner is perfect for the event. No, like, we're talking like these like, think of almost like a 1200 meter, 800 meter track athlete who now is stretching out their running capabilities, really strong, really powerful, and can hold that pace for a long period of time. It's crazy what we're going to see. So really, really exciting. So again, huge takeaway there that I think a lot of people can learn from. All right, everyone in our crew, this is another big takeaway. We had a plan. We had structure to our training. Our HYROX crew here in Melbourne, we followed it. Everyone on our HYROX program have been following their programs. And what we saw, right, it was no surprise. Everyone got an amazing result. The weekend for me was just a huge win, just seeing so many people just get incredible results. And this is a reminder, because some people are new to, like, maybe you're not new to fitness. Like, you go for runs, you go strength train, you train at your local community gym. Like, that's great. But when it really comes to, how do I go next level? How do I keep getting faster? How do I keep getting stronger? Right? The reality is there's no secret. There's no secret training plan. There's no secret science. There's no secret drink, right, or supplement that you can take that's just going to change everything for you. What it comes down to is it comes down to simple structures and, programming principles done consistently. And you got to just put in the work and actually apply yourself in those training sessions. Again, if you have the world's greatest, training program, but executed poorly, right, will give you a poor result. If you have an average training program, executed extremely well, will still give you an amazing result. So get an amazing training program, execute it, amazingly to the best of your ability, you're going to get a great result. And, we saw that. And, our mission here at, Hybrid Heroes is we want to not only provide that for people, but the thing that helps people stay in it, be consistent, is the support, right? Having, whether that's, us catching up with people for our HYROX Friday sessions, whether that's in our, our school communities, which is our online community, whether that's now with people integrating into our app and our training program, but just having the ability to message, to talk, to share, and to keep people engaged in their training creates all of that. And also we lead by example. We show what we do. People show us what they do. And that there, showed on the weekend. Everyone who was involved with us and engaged especially, right, got an amazing, incredible result. And they had an amazing, incredible time because they did the work. So if you're someone who is like winging it a little bit, you're sort of going from a workout with your friend over there, joining in for group there, you found an online workout that you want to try here, maybe you went into a program, but now it's just literally sitting there in your inbox and you're not following it, and because no one's checking in with you. That, I'm telling you right now, right, from 17 plus years of coaching experience, right, that you got to just execute. You got to find structure within your training routine. And everyone's so different. Structure could be 3 days a week consistently. Structure could be 6 days a week. Structure could be, I need to get better at running, so I need to be doing my 2 runs minimum a week, no matter what. Having that and then sticking to it for like 12 weeks minimum, 12 weeks at a time. If you do that, like, not only will you be proud and confident of your ability because you stuck to something, more than 1 or 2 weeks, but then the results come and then you're like, that's all it took. What is easy to do is easy not to do. We have to remember that. So I'm not saying this is an easy thing to do, but I'm saying it's not complicated. It's very, very simple. So I think if you're someone who is wondering, how do I go next level? How do I get better? How do I improve my running? I've tried this, I've tried that. Like, the reality is, sorry, there's nothing special about you. You are human like the rest of us. And, these principles, these principles do apply to you. You're not an exception to the rules, all right? So if you follow structure, if you be consistent, you will get results. It is that simple, right? So if you need help with that, that's what we're here for. It's what we're here for. And that's why we do like these podcasts and share insights, because we're just bringing this knowledge to you to remind you and to show you, like, maybe some of the doubts or fears, or if you're unclear on what to do, it's most of the time we're overthinking it. All right. So this is not designed to be a full plug and pitch. Please do not take it this way. But what I'm really showing you, based on what I said, is I'm going to talk to you about our new training program, but not the training program and why you should join it, but why it works. Why did people get so many great results? And we have an amazing training program. We have a brand new app, and I want you, of course, to sign up to it and get involved and let us help you do HYROX. But also, I'm humble enough to say, like, you know what? Maybe you're part of someone else's program right now. Maybe you got another friend, you got a coach, a personal trainer, someone that who is in your HYROX space. So go and support them. Absolutely. Get on their program. Support the people in your local community. Help those around you. Because I'm telling you right now, if you know a coach, or if you know someone trying to get started in this HYROX space, or go and support them by jumping on their program and saying, hey, I'm willing to give you a few bucks a week, whatever it is, whatever they're asking for, help them, and they're going to help you. So that's what I really want to say here. So I'm going to talk to you about why our program works just like everyone else's program if you follow the things that are designed in it. Now, if you're a coach especially, right, if you're listening to this as a coach, take these notes, because this is, again, why we program, and this is what we're trying to do. We're not just trying to get people to run fast and do a hard workout. And, it's like, we need to provide the right structure for people. So let's go through this. And again, if this is something that you're struggling with or resonating, or you're like, I have none of this, right? This is what we got to think of. All right. So when we're looking at, like hybrid heroes, so we've just converted again to hybrid heroes from HYROX heroes. We're now going to just dominate this hybrid space, HYROX specialists still, but we're going to now focus on running and other areas of hybrid movements. But what we do when we look at our program is we've got to look at providing that structure, as we spoke about. Now, structure is just so important, because whether it works or it doesn't work, when we have a plan there and we execute it, right, it allows us then to understand if it worked or if it didn't. So if without a structure, without having some sort of routine and consistency to what we are doing, then we don't truly ever know if it did work or if it didn't. So over the years, I've written and taken people through programs, and it hasn't delivered a result. But because we had a structure there, we could always change it. It then became, a very clear decision, or we were able to make very smart decisions on those changes. And then we started getting the results. And then we go, that was the teaching, that was the lessons. So that's why, our structures obviously, are proven, based on years and years and years of doing all of this, but we're learning more and more each time. So when you are looking to start a program, it provides you structure to follow, right? What we do in our programs, and again, I'm talking ours, and if you're looking at other people's programs, is we have beginner, intermediate, and advanced for especially our main programs, and we're providing that. I'm going to provide that pretty much in all of our programs that we write, especially where fully appropriate, because everyone's demands are different. If you're taking, Joanne, who works, corporate, busier lifestyle, has 2 kids, she should not be training 6 days a week for an hour and a half at a time, right? She needs a program that suits her, meets her where she is at in life, to get the best out of her, and also to help her achieve the goals that she wants to. Versus, you got Sally, who's 23 years old, has no kids, works part-time somewhere, and has 3 hours a day to train and can train 6 days a week. Different program, different demands, right? So you got to get the right structure to meet you where you are in your life as well. Really important. When it comes to the program design, and what you need to look at when training for HYROX, is it's not a one modality discipline. You can't just be like, I just got to run and get better at running, or I'm just going to go to the gym and get stronger, or I'm just going to do HYROX specific. We've got to do all of it. That's the reality. That's the event. I can't change it. That's the reality of the event. You got to have strength, right? So you got to be lifting weights. You got to be getting strong. Okay. You got to be running. You got to get cardio fit, zone 2, long runs. You got to build that endurance. And then you have to be a master at HYROX. You have to do HYROX specific training, functional training, high intensity, transitions, learning all the movements. You have to do all of it, right? So without doing all 3 of those areas, and again, everyone's different. Everyone might have one of those areas they do more than the other, right? So again, work on weaknesses, and that's where the different types of programs come into it as well. But you must be hitting all 3 components in those separate domains. Not like, yeah, I do strength in my HYROX session. It's different, because you can only build true strength by building true strength, by doing strength training. I'm talking 10 reps, 3 sets of, strength-based movements, not 20 reps of kettlebell swings in a HYROX workout. It's not strength training, right? You're using strength, but it's still an aerobic activity, right? Okay, you got structure. You've got all the design now. You've got strength HYROX running in there. Now you got to create consistency, right? Now the plan has to work. It has to be thought of for a period of time. And what makes someone consistent as well is a program that is achievable to do week by week. So that's where smart periodization, steady little progressions week to week, things that build upon each other so you can keep up with the program as it progresses. There's a lot of programs out there as well. So if you feel this way, if you've been on programs, or if you're doing random things and you're wondering why the progress isn't really coming, or you feel like everything's just always feeling hard, is because you might be making too big a leaps ahead. You might be going from some pretty slow pacing type workouts to then jumping in with people where the intensity is way too high, and your body just hasn't progressed properly. It just hasn't adapted to the training stimulus. So that's why having consistency in a well-structured program is going to change your HYROX game altogether. It's going to change it. Okay, tailoring. Tailor to your goals, right? This is another big point that we got to look at. If you're really bad at running, so again, if you're going in the HYROX, and the amount of people that we like, because we know now with HYROX, you got to be good at running, right? And a lot of people are starting to do a lot more running. A lot of run clubs, even in Melbourne, like here in Australia, it's been a lot better weather, right? So a lot of people are just out there doing a lot more running, and it really showed. And again, for those people, and I know a lot of people, and I'm even one of them, running I needed to focus a lot on that. So that was tailored to my goals. Is I had to do more of that. Where like my partner Gab, she didn't have to do as much running to me because she's already a fantastic runner. So you have to make sure that when you're looking at program designs or you're putting your program together or getting on someone's program, is that you have to go, all right, I'm going to take it, but I still have to make sure I tailor it to me, or my focus on the areas that need it is very tailored focus, right? And you're going to get so much more out of it. And this is going to be just such a great way to make that progress when it comes to getting ready for HYROX. Whatever you do, right? This is a huge one. Whatever you do. And that's why I'm saying, if you got a friend, if you got a trainer, you know, a community, or if you need it, we provide this, right? If you need support, right? You can't do this on your own. And of course you can do it on your own, but it's like, you're going to have down days. You're going to have tough days. You're going to have days where you don't want to go for a run. You're going to have days where you just can't be bothered, or you don't want to go hard and you're just going to take it easy. You're going to have questions. You're going to have concerns. You're going to go, how do I tailor this? Or I can't make sense of why I'm not progressing. Anything, could be anything, right? Having support around you is such an important thing, and not just purely to focus on your training, but you're still human going through life. Maybe something happens in your life and you need people and good people around you to support you, encourage you, and just give you that space just to feel, you know, just a bit down for a moment, but then they can just pick you back up. And we experienced this in our training. We had some really hard training days where the mood was a bit lower because we were just tired. But because we had support there, our community, and I'm not talking just from the people we train with in person, even from people online, people that we talk to and communicate, that can just tell us how they feel, and we can share our feelings with them, and everyone can sort of feel like, okay, this is normal. And then we're just there to push each other and motivate each other in positive ways. You need support in that system as well. You know, even just coming down to understanding certain movements or how to read programs and prescriptions is really, really, really important. Okay, last couple points here. Tracking your data. Okay, so a big thing, and again, this HYROX and this whole HYROX Melbourne, we could see all these little things coming through. People were just a lot more cluier about their data. They knew their run times, and they knew how long they should be at stations, and that kind of like, you know, tracking, I love it. Like I'm very data driven. We always focus on being repeatable in training, and making those steady improvements. But people were really zoned in with HYROX into this. And I'm talking people that, you know, were nowhere near the podium, but they just went out there and they had a plan. They knew their data. And the important thing about that is, not only is that important to make progress in HYROX, but, you know, one of our slogans here is like progress over perfection. And I think it doesn't matter who you are, right? If you're making progress, that's a win. That is success, right? If you did 2 hours last time in your race and you did 1 hour 50, like, congratulations. Like, that is huge. And I think that's the thing that should be celebrated. And just by tracking those little things, and that's at HYROX, but what about just your run down the beach or in the streets or your strength training session, all those little wins that you accumulate. But if you're not tracking it, then it just feels like you're just training hard. And sometimes it can feel like you're not getting anywhere. So I think really starting to track your data is really going to not only make training feel more rewarding, but allow you to focus on the things that matter. And that is just making progress. Right in front of me, behind the screen, I've got a big LSKD sort of sign here. And, you know, it really reminds me 1% better every day. And, you know, that value is so crucial and important. It's like, you just need to be just that little bit better somewhere in your life. And the day was worthwhile. So always chase that. And that will go to my last point here, is focus, right? Just making sure this is a saying I really like. I heard it from a business mentor, and he was like, you know, a focused fool can achieve more than a distracted genius. And, you know, that just comes back to the idea that, you know, what you focus on is what you get. And by having a program and structure and being connected and engaged, right, with a community or a mission, it's going to allow you to just create so much more positive action in that direction. So if you're really listening to this, right, again, that is not me trying to talk about how good our programs are. Of course, they're amazing and good, and we provide all that. But it's like, when you're looking at HYROX in general, right? And this is, again, coming back to the theme of this whole podcast. We saw this in Melbourne so clearly. We saw it with our crew. We saw it with the people we trained. And I really want to highlight this to you because there's no real big, again, complicated thing that you need to do. It's not necessarily you need to be doing, anaerobic threshold training at this percent that's going to make the biggest difference. It is just nailing all this, right? And I think this space, and for a lot of people, just getting this really dialed in is going to see huge, huge benefits, not only to your HYROX, but to you in your life. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel more confident. You're going to be fitter, more in shape. And the knock-on effect that will have in every area of your life is tremendous, right? Now, these rules, what I'm saying here, yes, I'm talking HYROX. Yes, I'm talking training. But as we know, right, and a lot of people who listen to these podcasts, user business owners, user parents, use, work for companies, your employees, your people who do these skills in other areas of your life. The commonalities, methods are many, but principles are few. These are principles of succeeding. These are principles of discipline, of success, right? We just got to apply it here in this fitness landscape. So, so if you are wanting help with all of this, this is my plug, right? Come join us. We're, our Hybrid Heroes program. We have HYROX specific training programs. You can get involved and we can do all this. It's all money back guarantee. You can start on a 7-day trial. You can check us out. And if you don't like us, you can just cancel anytime. It is that simple. But I know we can deliver on all this, and I know we can help you do HYROX. So guys, HYROX Melbourne. This is just the spear, the tip of the spear, as far as just a quick, some teachings that I want to share with you coming right out of it. But we are going to unpack this event. We are going to unpack stories and insights from the people who did it, share a lot of that because, again, there's so much to learn from each other when it comes to HYROX, and there's so many different experiences and journeys along the way. So, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the end of this podcast. I will see you on the next episode.